I'm Owen Bigland. This is the Inside Edge video blog. Okay, there is a new fear on the horizon if you're a landlord, homeowner selling a property with the tenant still occupying it. I know I've beaten this thing to death, but it's the single biggest issue facing investors right now, and it's something that everyone needs to be aware of. So I've done lots of blogs on how you never want to sell a home tenanted. Get the tenant out, negotiate a mutual agreement to end tenancy. It's a win-win for everyone. You'll get far more money for the home because we open it up to the full demographic of buyers. I've done lots of blogs on it. Go watch my older blogs on this topic. I've done lots. Last month I gave you guys another new wrinkle though. Now the latest is that the seller, the landlord, is doing everything right. They're listing the home. It's on a month-to-month, except the only thing they're not doing right is they're listing it with the tenant in it. Other than that, they're following all the proper procedures. Listing it, of course, it has to be an end user. You provide the tenant with 2 clear months notice. The new buyer provides a declaration stating that they're going to move in as a principal residence, and then you give the tenant 1 month's rent for compensation. You leave money on the table, but hey, the new wrinkle was, though, I've said, and it's been in the news lately, is the new owner shows up with the moving truck on possession day and the tenant won't leave. And now the seller has got a real problem. Go back and watch the blog I did last month on this. This is a lot more common than people know, and it's getting more common with the fact that vacancy rate is near zero and rents have skyrocketed. Of course, a lot of times these tenants don't have any choice. They can't find a place to move into. It's either that or they're living in their car. And they know the routine. I mean, it's going to take many, many months to get that tenant out. Eventually they're going to, because it's illegal what they're doing. But it could take 3, 4, 5 months through the tribunal, getting a hearing and all that other good stuff. Meanwhile, the seller, of course, is on the hook for damages because he's not able to provide vacant occupancy, vacant possession. So depending on the property, you could be getting into tens of thousands of dollars in damages. It's a real problem. Now this new owner has to go get a storage locker and go rent a house for indefinitely until they can get the keys for the house they bought. And then of course, the owner might say, well, I can go after the tenant for damages. Yeah, you definitely can. The problem is are you able to get damages out of the tenant? A lot of these tenants, of course, don't have a lot of assets or money. It's going to cost a lot of money to proceed legal action against them. It's almost like getting blood out of a stone. Now we've got one more new wrinkle, if you guys can believe this. I've heard a little bit of this down in the US, and then a guy on my comment section here on the last one I did on tenancy posted a link to a CBC newsletter or article from Toronto. And this is called Cash for Keys. And essentially it's extortion, it's illegal, but it works something like this. This story about a seller in Toronto on a detached house, tenanted, sold the house, filed all the proper paperwork, 2 months notice and all the other stuff that goes in Ontario. I'm not familiar with all the rules in Ontario, but moving day, possession day comes around and the tenant won't leave. Now the seller's in some real trouble. But to make matters worse, the seller or the tenant obviously knows the trouble that they're in and how long it's going to take to get them out. I've got a solution. You give me $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 cash and I will hand over the keys and move out so you can get out of this legal quagmire you're in now. So it's nuts. Maybe some people can comment. Again, I have not seen this cash for keys yet anywhere in Vancouver. I have not heard of it yet here. It has been going on a little bit in the States. Now, of course, this article you could link to or just Google search it. In Ontario, apparently, it's starting to happen now. Although the way the market is here with our vacancy and rental market and everything else, this could be coming. And it is basically, I would call it extortion, blackmailing extortion, what these tenants are doing. But I'm just trying to piece the puzzle together here. The strategy with this, I guess, and it kind of can make sense. This landlord, this seller is going to go to his lawyer and say, hey, listen, I couldn't give keys. Now I'm on the hook for damages. I have to rent a house for this new buyer, put his stuff in storage. What do I do? Oh, and by the way, the tenant now has come to me and said, you give me $20,000 and I'll leave. It's illegal, but I'm trying to read between the lines here. The lawyer might say, you know what? You might be better off paying this tenant to get out of this mess because you're racking up $10,000 or $15,000 a month right now in damages, and it could take 5 or 6 months before you get a hearing and legally get this tenant out. So this is just another nail in the coffin, folks, to why you do not want to sell a tenanted property. Most of the people that sell tenanted properties, it's a penny wise, pound foolish thing. I get it. They don't want to get the tenant out because I don't want to lose a month's rent. Well, I don't think I know they're not. They're not being properly consulted on the risk to what they're doing. If they're penny wise, pound foolish, which if getting the absolute most, netting the most money at the end of the day is at their top of their priority, I get it. Well, you're still better off getting the tenant out. As I've done so many blogs on it, now maybe it costs you 2 or 3 months rent. Now I can sell this home to the full demographic of buyers, end users, and investors, which make up a large percentage of the buyers. We can clean it up, paint it, stage it. I'm not restricted on showing times or completion times. And you got to give the tenant a month's rent anyways if you sell it with them in it. So if you're penny wise, pound foolish, that's still the best ways to get the tenant out with a mutual agreement to end tenancy. But even beyond that, forget money for a minute. Getting you out of legal trouble should be the absolute top of your priority list. I've done lots of blogs on this. I have fiduciary duty to all my sellers and my buyers. But when I'm selling a home, there's usually 2 things top at mind for me. Getting them the best possible price. And the second thing would be keeping them out of legal trouble. Well, you're not doing either if you're selling this home with a tenant still in it. So be careful. I know we have a lot of realtors that watch this channel. Realtors, you have to take those educational courses at the board. You have to take 3 every 2 years. The one you should definitely take is one called STOP, S-T-O-P. It stands for Selling Tenanted Occupied Properties. And learn this stuff. Learn how to get a tenant out on a win-win using a mutual agreement to end tenancy. Learn how the Tenancy Act works, how it favors the tenants. You will stand above the crowd here with other realtors if you become an expert in this like I am. Your clients will appreciate at least being counseled on the pros and cons of what you're trying to do selling a tenanted property. I just took a quick look on Paragon today. In the last week, I would say 50% of the 1-bedrooms listed downtown are tenant occupied. Nuts. You're leaving money on the table, you're not going to get your full potential selling price, and you're leaving yourself open to a great deal of legal risk that most people, I think, are unaware of. So let me know in the comment section. I have never heard yet about a cash for keys deal here in Vancouver. They're in Ontario and they're in the States. Maybe this might be coming here. Now, as far as I know, this is highly unethical, illegal, but this is what you sign up for, selling a home with a tenanted property, with a tenant still in there. And I think if you asked a lawyer, I think maybe I'm not getting this right, but I have a feeling that the lawyer might say, well, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. You know what? You might be better off just paying this, even though it's extortion. Give the tenant $10K to leave, because the alternative is to be in breach of contract here, and it's costing you $5,000 or $10,000 a month while you wait for that tenant to get evicted, which might be far worse. I'm Owen Bigland. As always, thanks for watching. See you next week.